Act 2, Scene 1. So in terms of the... We are in... What? That wasn't red. That's not red. There we go. So we are in... Again, we're in Macbeth's castle. But at this point, we are kind of in the grounds, right? So the outside. Okay? Banquo. Good. Now you might think that's not important, but it kind of is, right? So remember, first of all, Fleance. Let's circle him. So Fleance is Banquo's son, but also he is the one of, I'm going to put here, future king ? When Macbeth sees him, what he doesn't see a boy. He sees a threat. Sorry. Yeah, so Malcolm is the heir to the throne, but the witches say, Banquo's, your children will be kings. So to Macbeth, now he's a little boy, right? Now we don't know how old he is, but he's probably about 10, right? The point is this, he's a little boy. He's not a teenager, he's a little boy. When Macbeth sees him, he doesn't see a little boy, he sees a threat to his throne, okay? The moon is down, so it is dark, right? There is no moonlight, so it's dark. The night is particularly dark for people creeping around in the shadows. I have not heard the clock. Banquo. Good. So it is past 12. So after 12 o'clock at night, they stop ringing the bell.
Sorry for the interruption. Can Nathan McDonald from Year 9 come to reception, please? That's Nathan McDonald from Year 9 come to reception, please.
Yeah, so you know how like on the hour it's like a dong, dong. After midnight they stop doing it because people are trying to sleep. Right, so it's late. So it's dark, it's late, it's creepy. Banquo. Good, thank you. So he gives him his sword. Husbandry is like actually it literally means to sort of take care of the house. So the candles are all out. What he means here is there are no stars. So when Macbeth says stars hide your fire, the stars are not out. So there's no moon, there's no stars, it's dark. He then says this, a heavy summon lies like lead upon me. So he feels heavy, like he feels pressure, and yet I would not sleep. So he's tired, but he doesn't want to sleep. Merciful powers restrain me in the cursed thoughts that nature gives way. So he's thinking about the witches. He's thinking about the prophecy. So we get a little sense that actually Banquo also has ambition. So he's thinking about the prophecy and that his children will be kings. And it's kind of making him so interested that he can't even sleep at the moment. Enter Macbeth and a servant with a torch. This is still Banquo. Yeah, so notice there's a sense of like danger here, right? Give me my sword. Who's there? A friend. You need to be focused, please. Okay, you're not 100% though, are you? Right? A friend. Now, my question is this, right? Is that true? Is he Banquo's friend? Yeah. Is he? He sees his little boy as a threat. If he could kill his little boy, he would. Right? So we question about whether he's lying or telling the truth. A friend! Right? Put your sword down. Banquo. A bit louder, please. Good. So he gives Lady Macbeth a diamond. So he's given her a diamond as a gift. It says that he's abed, so the king is happy, right? The king suspects nothing. He's abed, and he's been an unusual pleasure. So he's happy, and he is asleep. Okay. There's also a little bit here of a bit of a suspicious tone, right? So what? Why aren't you asleep yet? What are you doing up at night? Why are you wandering around in the middle of the night? Now, of course, you might say, well, why are you wandering around in the night? Right? Being unprepared, our will became the servant to defect, which should else have free wrought. Banquo. Yeah, now this, he doesn't like this, right? Because he goes, I dreamt of the weird sisters. So the weird sisters, of course, are the witches. To you, they've shown some truth. They go, oh, isn't it so weird that you have become Cawdor? Now, Macbeth is thinking, when I kill the king and become the king, Banquo is going to suspect me. So this here is a problem for Macbeth. Okay, Banquo is a problem because Banquo is the only person. So I'm going to put here, Banquo knows the truth. So when he kills Duncan, the only person that's going to suspect him is Banquo. Banquo is going to go, who's most likely to have done this? Is it the person that was prophesied they'd become king? Maybe. So Banquo is a problem for him, which is why when I say up here about him being a friend, is that true? Banquo is his biggest problem. I like this bit. Right? I think not of them. I don't think about it. Right? Now, of course, that there is a huge lie. Because we know the previous act is him thinking about it all the time. He is on his way to kill the king because the witches said he would become king. Right? Big lie. I think not of them. Yet, when we can entreat an hour to serve, we would spend it in some words upon that business, if you would grant the time. So he wants to speak later. Okay? So let's talk about it later on. Turn the page, please. Banquo. Yeah. So he says yes, right? Now, like, this line's very interesting here, right? He says to Banquo, if, so conditional, if you shall cleave to my consent. So to cleave is to kind of stick, right? If you should cleave to my consent, when 'tis, I shall make honour for you. So he kind of says, right, if you stick with me, it equals power. Now that's quite a weird thing to say, right? Yeah. It just means like when you're free. Like leisure time is free time. So it's like whenever you want to, we can talk about it. Then he says, if you stick with me, right? If you stick with me, when the time comes, so when the time comes, it shall make honour for you. Which is a little bit suspicious, right? Because it's like, oh, how's your night going? Yeah, it's all right. You're not tired yet? No, not really. I had a dream about those weird witches last night. Oh, I didn't think about them. But listen, stick with me, and there's power for you. Like, it has a kind of like darkness to it, right? But he's trying to say, look, things are going to change around here, right? Whose side do you want to be on? Are you on my side or against me? Right? You're either with me or you're against me. Banquo. Yeah, so he says, essentially he says yes, right? So allegiance is about duty, my bosom franchise. So it's like, yeah, I'll stick with you, but only so far, right? I lose none in seeking to augment it. So I don't want to lose my honour, right? But he says essentially, yes, he's interested in honour. Good repose the while, so to sleep. Exit, Banquo and Fleance. So they go to bed at this point. Okay. Go bid thy mistress. When my drink is ready, she strike upon the bell. Get thee to bed. What drink is he talking about here? Good, right? The drink is the guards. So the guards drug. So when the guards are drugged, she will strike upon the bell, right? and that is his cue to murder. So she's given the guards their drink, right? Their drink. As soon as they are asleep, she's going to ring the bell. He knows the coast is clear to go and kill Duncan. Okay, so it's clear to go kill Duncan. Exit the servant, right? He's now alone. So this is another. Please add this word down. This is another soliloquy. So his thoughts aloud. Okay, so the servant leaves. Is this a dagger which I see before me? The handle towards my hand. Come, let me clutch thee. Okay, so just to be very clear, right? The dagger is a, please spell this word right, a hallucination, right? He sees a dagger, a floating magical dagger. Is this a dagger which I see before me? The handle towards my hand. Why does that matter? The handle towards my hand, as opposed to the blade towards my hand. The handle. Soft. Very good, right? So the handle is the part, of course, that you use, right? So this is the dagger he's going to use. The handle towards my hand. Come, let me clutch thee. Right? He wants it. Right? Let me hold you. I have thee not, and yet I see thee still. Art thou not, fatal vision, sensible to feeling as to sight? So, fatal vision. Now, fatal is a word which means death. So he sees it as an image of death. Art thou not sensible to feeling as to sight? How come I can see you but I can't hold you? How come my one sense, right? I can see this bottle, I can hold this bottle. How come I can see you but I can't hold you? So notice the questions, right? So he's still at this point quite confused by this. Or art thou but a dagger of the mind? Art thou a dagger of the mind? A false creation, proceeding from the heat oppressed brain. Now this is nice, right? What do you think he means by that? Art thou but a dagger of the mind, a false creation, proceeding from the heat oppressed brain? What can he mean by heat oppressed brain? Let me talk about it for a second. What do you think? Heat oppressed brain.
It's conflicted. It's down the
Any guesses on this? Heat oppressed? Yep.
It's like conflicted and really thinking too much.
Yeah, right? So the reason why his brain is heat oppressive, like friction creates heat, because his brain's been working so much, because he's been thinking back and forth. He's like, have I driven myself mad? Right? Is my brain overwhelmed? So I think you're absolutely right, Ed. So yeah, heat oppressive. So we've got this idea of like overthinking. So we've got overthink, and I think also stress, right? So you know that feeling like when you're very stressed by something, you've got lots of things to do, and your brain almost stops functioning. It's like it gets almost like overwhelmed. Oh, well, I don't know what overwhelmed. He says, is this like a mental illness? Right? Is this like a mental illness of mine? Now remember, these guys had no idea about mental illnesses, right? They used to think that you used to put a leech on someone to make them less angry, right? They knew nothing at all about science. But Shakespeare is kind of smart because he does kind of access this idea of like, can stress lead to hallucinations? Can my stressed mind create a false reality? I see thee yet. In form as palpable means like real, physical, as this which I now draw. So to draw means to take out. So he takes out his dagger. So he goes, it says, you look as real to me as my actual dagger. Thou marshals me the way I was going. And to marshal means to lead. So it is going towards Duncan. Thou marshals me the way that I was going, and such an instrument I was to use. My eyes are made fools of the other senses, or else worth all the rest. I see thee still. So the vision doesn't go. And on thy blade, important quote here, on thy blade and dudgeon, a dudgeon is a handle, gouts of blood. So the dagger starts to bleed. So the dagger is floating like this, and he's like, what? I can't, what? And then the dagger starts to bleed, right? The handle and the blade start to bleed out of the dagger, which was not so before. There's no such thing. There's no such thing. It is the bloody business which informs us to mine eyes. So he's thinking about the murder. So he says, my mind is obsessed with the murder, and it's tricking me, right? It's not real, I'm being tricked. Now that, if you just do a little line here, that is the first half of this speech, okay? The second half of it is a little bit different. So really, really simple, right? He's walking along, he sees a floating dagger, he tries to grab the dagger, he goes, what? Are you real? Are you part of my brain? Have my brain imagined you? And he goes, I'm going crazy, right? There is no such thing, right? It is the bloody business. Now, the dagger is a symbol of ambition. It's almost like his ambition is so strong that actually turns into a physical thing that leads him towards Duncan's chamber. Okay? In the second part of this, he thinks about actually doing the murder. Okay? Now, what weapon has Macbeth used so far in this play before the dagger? A sword, what? A sword, right? Brandished steel. So think about this, right? A sword is an honourable weapon. Right? If I have a sword and I meet you on the battlefield, mano a mano, right? Sword is honourable. The dagger is a symbol of dishonour, sneaky, cowardly. It's a little blade that you conceal and you get someone with. Right? Soldiers don't fight in battle with daggers, do they? They use axes and swords. So the dagger itself is a symbol of a couple of things. We just go back up to the start of this, okay? So the dagger itself is a symbol of dishonour. Okay, it's the kind of weapon, so dishonourable. It's the kind of weapon that is hidden, right? Almost like an assassin. So the very weapon itself is a symbol of how Macbeth is behaving dishonourably. He's not gone to Duncan and said, I challenge you to be king, I will fight you in the street. He's sneaking around in the dead of night to kill an old man in his bed, asleep with a dagger. Right? It is not honourable behaviour. It is cowardly. So, I'm just writing coward at the top there. Now, he thinks about this in the second part of this, right? This bit's a bit harder. Now, over the half-world, over the one half-world, nature seems dead. So, there's an idea which is, because they knew the world was round, they go, half the world is always dead. Half the world is night, half the world is day. And wicked dreams abuse the curtain's sleep. Witchcraft celebrates pale Hecate's offerings. Hecate is the god of witches. So he says it's dark, it's creepy, half the world is asleep, there's wicked evil in the air, there's witches, there's evil, and withered murder, alarmed by his sentinel, the wolf, whose howls his watch. So we've got wolves, we've got murder, circle please, we've got wicked, we've got witchcraft. Okay, so all of this is about evil. He says evil things happen at night. Woo! Wolves howl, witches fly around, wicked dreams. Thus with his stealthy pace, with Tarquin's ravishing strides, towards his design moves like a ghost. Now Tarquin, circle that please. Tarquin is a rapist. There's a play called The Rape of Lucrece, where the main character Tarquin, who is a prince, rapes a woman. So he says, I am like a rapist. That's how low I am, right? Sneaking around at night, doing terrible crimes. He goes, I am no better than this. So you've got a reference to a rapist. You've also got ghosts. Thou sure and firm set earth, hear not my steps. Hear not my steps, which way they walk. For fear, thy very stones prate at my whereabouts. To prate is to talk. And take the present horror from the time. So he's worried that the steps, the very ground that he's walking on, will give him away. So he's sneaking. All of this is about sneaking. And I think there's an idea here which is like, we've gone from a man who was on a battlefield, right, carved through people, split a guy in half, put his head on a spike, like big honour, and now he's like, I'm sneaking at night, I'm like a ghost, I'm like a rapist, I'm like a witch, I'm like a wolf, right? I've become something that I am not, right? I'm walking so quietly because my fear is that the sound of my footsteps will give me away, right? The key thing with this, right, is that he knows this is wrong, right? He's not doing this thinking to himself, oh, this is going to be great. He doesn't really want to do it, does he? Really? He doesn't really want to do it. So he's sneaking around up to Duncan's room with his knife, right? So there's two things here, please write this down. Number one is that he doesn't really want to. And number two is that he knows it's wrong, right? In two ways. One is of dishonour and sin, right? And the reason we know that he knows that is because what he talks about. He says, I am like these people. I'm like a witch, I'm like a wolf, I'm like a murderer, I'm like a rapist, I'm like a ghost. Right? I'm a coward. I'm scared. I'm scared that someone's going to catch me. And take the present horror from the time which now suits it. Whilst I fret, this is quite a nice bit here. Now to fret means to worry. Whilst I worry, he lives. Who lives? Duncan, right? He's like, whilst I'm standing around thinking about this, he's still alive. Words to the heat of deeds, too cold breath gives. This is I love this quote, right? So it's kind of confusing, but talking about something puts you off doing it, right? So words to the heat of deeds. So if a deed is action, right? If a deed is action, the words make it cold breath. So in other words, there's an idea that he thinks that he can talk himself out of it. So he goes, the longer that I stand here, thinking about it, worrying about it, I'm gonna lose my passion, right? I'm gonna put myself off. So again, he knows it's wrong. Because he knows that logically it's a bad thing to do. So his whole attitude is just do it, right? It's almost like if you're going to go bungee jumping and you're there on the edge and you're thinking, right? And someone just goes, just do it, right? Jump and deal with the consequences later. Ding, ding, ding. A bell rings. What does that mean? It's time, right? It's time. It's now or never. Ding, ding, ding. I go and it is done. This is how he convinced. I go and it is done. I go and it is done. The bell invites me. Hear it not, Duncan, for it is a knell that summons thee to heaven or to hell. Great line, right? A knell is a death bell. So it's a bell that is rang when somebody dies, like a funeral bell. So that bell is your knell. It's a knell, a death bell that summons thee to heaven or to hell, meaning that he is going to die, right? He's going to die tonight. End of scene. Pause that.